In person, if possible, Anubis was even more drop-dead gorgeous. Oh, haha, I didn't catch that pun, but thank you, Carter. God of the dead, drop-dead gorgeous, you're hilarious. Now may I continue? Anyways, he had a pale complexion, tousled black hair, and rich brown eyes like melted chocolate. He was dressed in black jeans, combat boots, like mine, a ripped t-shirt, and black leather jacket that suited him quite nicely. He was long and lean like a jackal. His ears, like a jackal's, stuck out a bit, which I found cute, and he wore a gold chain around his neck. Now, please understand, I am not boy crazy. I'm not. I'm spent most of my school term making fun of Liz and Emma, who were, and I was very glad they weren't with me just then, because they were boy crazy, because they would have teased me to no end. The boy in black stood and brushed off his jacket. I'm not a dog, he grumbled. No, I agreed. You're... No doubt I would have said delicious or something equally embarrassing, but Carter saved me. You're Anubis, he said. We've come for the feather of truth. Anubis frowned. He looked very nice and looked his eyes into mine. You're not dead. No, I said, though we're trying awfully hard. I don't deal with the living, he said firmly. Then he looked at Khufu and Carter. However, you travel with a baboon. That shows good taste. I won't kill you until you've had a chance to explain. Why did Bast bring you here? Actually, Carter said, Toth sent us. Carter started to tell him the story, but Khufu broke in impatiently. Baboon speak must have been quite efficient, because Anubis nodded as if he'd just gotten the whole story. I see. He scowled at Carter. So, you're Oris, and you're... His finger drifted towards me. I'm... I stammered. Quite unlike me to be tongue-tied, I'll admit, but looking at Anubis, I felt as if I'd just gotten a large shot of Novocaine from the dentist. Carter looked at me as if I'd gone daft. I'm not Isis, I managed. I mean, Isis is milling around about inside, but I'm not her. She's just visiting. Anubis tilted his head. And the two of you intend to challenge Set? That's the general idea, Carter agreed. Will you help? Anubis glowered. I remembered Toth saying that Anubis was only in a good mood once in an eon or two, so I had the feeling this was not one of those days. No, he said flatly. I'll show you why. He turned into a jackal and sped back the way he'd come. Carter and I exchanged looks. Not knowing what else to do, we ran after Anubis, deeper into the gloom. In the center of the temple was a large circular chamber that seemed to be two places at once. On one hand, it was a great hall with blazing braziers and an empty throne at the far end. The center of the room was dominated by a set of scales, a black iron T with ropes linked on two golden dishes, each big enough to hold a person, but the scales were broken. One of the golden dishes was bent into a V, as if something very heavy had jumped up and down on it. The other dish was hanging by a single rope. Curled at the base of the scales, fast asleep, was the oddest monster I'd seen yet. It had the head of a crocodile with a lion's mane. The front half of its body was a lion, but the back end was a sleek, brown, and fat, a hippo, I decided. The odd bit was, the animal was tiny. I mean, no longer than the average poodle, but I suppose it would make him a hippodoodle? So that was the hall, at least one layer of it. But at the same time, I seemed to be standing in a ghostly graveyard, like a three-dimensional projection superimposed on the room. In some places the marble floor gave way to patches of mud and moss-covered paving stones. Lines of above-ground tombs, like miniature rows of houses, radiated from the center of the tile chamber, in a wheel-spokes pattern. Many of the tombs had cracked open. Some were bricked up, others ringed with iron fences. Around the edges of the chamber, the black pillars shifted form, sometimes changing into ancient cypress trees. I felt as if I were stepping between two different worlds, and I couldn't tell which one was real. Khufu looped straight over the broken scales and climbed to the top, making himself right at home. He paid no attention to the hippodoodle.